For my first observation, I observed at Granite Ridge Intermediate School on the Clovis North Educational Center campus. I observed 7th and 8th graders for 3 hours on February 13th in the Physical Education Department. The school site had very little trash left behind in the hallways. The Physical Education girls' locker room had no backpacks in the aisles and was systematically organized by period rows. The campus was colored white and light blue and the buildings were light gray. With the background of the mountains behind the school fields, the color scheme of the light blue and white matched the mountains and sky. The spread out campus had signs posted about sports teams and community activities. Inside the academic 2-story buildings, there were flat screen TVs that promoted community and athletic events. Observing the PE department, there was not too much technology being used. There was a speaker to have music played for weightlifting and circuit training, and an app used on the teacher's phone to signal switching of certain exercises. Also, every teacher in the physical education department had a laptop provided for them inside the locker room. In the physical education department, I was able to observe periods 2, 3, and 4. Periods 2 and 3 were the athletic girl classes, and period 4 was the cheerleaders or dancers. In period 2, there was about 30 girls. In period 3, there was about 25 girls. In period 4, there was about 70 girls. They were able to be segregated by being athletes, but they were integrated within the class and mixed in well with each other. The students were integrated within the class by lining up in roll call order by alphabetical order. The classes were all wearing their PE uniforms as listed on the screen. The students were engaged in the material. They set up the weight room and the equipment room at the proper stations. When working with weights, the class was exercising, not talking to each other unless guided to, and they were helping each other use proper technique. The students were able to communicate with the teacher, and she was nodding her head and smiling. She was walking around and never on her phone during class. Second and third period was much more engaged by being active throughout the entire period of the class, not communicating with each other, and doing the activities that were provided to them. Fourth period had a lot more difficult time being engaged throughout the entire class period. In groups of 4 and 5, they were constantly talking to each other and had to be redirected and re-explain the directions of the game that they were playing often. The teacher I observed was wearing Maui gym sunglasses, black athletic leggings, a Clovis North water polo athletic fit sweatshirt, Brooks tennis shoes, and her hair was down. She was professional in her language by not using slang. She had a sense of humor and laughed often with the students. She would always walk around and talk with every student and made sure that the student felt heard by nodding her head when they would communicate. She often had a smile on her face. She would constantly walk around and talk to all of the students. She only sat down in the locker room when the students were changing during passing period. She helped students at all times, whether it was during class, passing periods, when they needed help opening their lockers, and much more. She stood in front of the students when they began to do their activities and walked around to every student or group while they were performing the activities. The students had a question, they would walk over to her during the lesson or the locker rooms, or she would go to them. The students were to come into the locker room and had 10 minutes from when the bell rang until they had to be out to roll call in their lines, wearing the proper physical education clothing that was posted around the locker room. All of the students were expected to lock their backpacks up in their own lockers that were issued to them. All of the students were to go to their teacher's roll call lines and sit in their alphabetical order. She checked all of the students in and would tell them the agenda for the day, and they would begin their warm-ups led by a student that was chosen for the day. This classroom management strategy was effective because it kept the students organized and allowed for a faster moving class, since there were short periods in PE, leaving 10 minutes for them to change into their PE clothes and 10 minutes for them to change out of their PE clothes to go back to class. The students were always reminded of the expectations because there were signs posted around the locker room of what was expected of them. There were policies, procedures, and reminders on bright colored papers all around the locker room. The students knew exactly what to do, and as soon as they were done changing, you would see them all exit the locker room and go and sit in their roll call lines. This was a very organized process and allowed for the teachers to keep control of the hundreds of kids that were out waiting to be checked in at one time.